Yeah, you can't hear it up here. That's the secret. When the red light is on, you speak, and we can't hear each other, but you can hear, right? Good. So good morning, and thank you for joining us. My name is Kathryn Good. I am a Program Management Officer in the Civil Society Unit in the Outreach Division in the Department of Global Communications at the United Nations. So thankfully, I only have to say that once today. It is my pleasure to be with you here today in person and online, and to launch 2023 in a session where we hope to hear mostly from civil society, and your voices will be present throughout the session. So I will open with a few remarks recapping what we did in the Civil Society Unit during 2022. Then I will hand over to Maher Nasser, who all of you know is the Director of the Outreach Division and gives us our vision for going forward. And then we'll come back to hear from civil society, and I think there's a quiz for you somewhere in that schedule. So it will be fun, you know. I came from another meeting that was much less fun, and I am very happy to be here today. So thank you all for your enthusiasm around the work that we do. My responsibilities are primarily with the Non-Governmental Liaison Service, which is a part of the Civil Society Unit, and in that role, we are tasked with ensuring civil society participation in the high-level meetings organized by the President of the General Assembly and the Secretary General. Today, the session has been created to let civil society representatives from various regions reflect on their work in 2022 and on upcoming projects for 2023. As I said, we'll create a space for civil society representatives who have joined me here on the rostrum, and those of you in the audience to share your work, to ask questions, and to answer the questions that we have on how to best engage with civil society. We will hear from Rinor Jani, Patrick Sciarratte, Piyush Gupta, Yuko Kudo, Lucia, Vilarino, Fiore, Marissa Hastings, and Vanessa Abdulaziz. In 2022, we organized virtual and hybrid events that included not only briefings, but also workshops, observances of UN International Days, and youth-led events. One of the most memorable events of this past year was the Civil Society Town Hall with the President of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly, Mr. Chabakorushi. This event was co-organized with the Office of the President of the General Assembly and with support from the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. That event was designed to give our invaluable civil society representatives the opportunity to learn more about His Excellency Kurushi's priorities and vision, and to identify and incorporate his, quote, solutions through solidarity, sustainability, science, youth, and partnerships. One of the civil society speakers who had the opportunity to share her work is here with us today, and we hope we'll hear from you and everyone later in the panel. And I want to thank the President for making that space available to civil society, not just for speaking, but for listening and for offering, based on that great experience, to organize another panel with civil society again later in the spring. We were pleased that 200 people joined us in person and 4,000 people have watched online with webcast and YouTube streaming. In my own small team, which is Karma and Judith and me, along with the help of all of our other colleagues who you know, Crystal, Victoria, Hawa, Felipe, and Swati, and led by Andy, our chief, and Maher as director, we're very proud of what we were able to accomplish with you in 2022. We continued to support the Secretary General's report, Our Common Agenda, and move forward with a way and a plan to increase the number of opportunities and the depth of engagement that the UN system has with civil society. We organized events, as I said, at headquarters and around the world, and close to 10,000 civil society representatives were able to participate in person in those events. The Civil Society Unit continued to increase our outreach efforts throughout the year, and our newsletters have played important roles in reaching new people. Youth News, a bi-weekly newsletter that informs young people about what's happening at the UN and how they can get involved, took off this year and now has almost 5,000 subscribers. As we look to 2023, we are committed to shaping productive collaboration with the civil society community. We have briefings, orientations, and more events planned for 2023. And we're also very excited to continue working with the Youth Steering Committee in the Civil Society Unit to tap into more youth voices and to increase youth engagement globally. As we transition to more in-person and hybrid events like this, we look forward to working together to identify and act upon innovative solutions to our most pressing problems. It's my pleasure to introduce Maher Nasser to you and to ask him to make his welcoming remarks. Thank you, Maher.
Thank you, Kathryn, and the team, CS Civil Society Unit. Good to see you all. Over the last couple of years, 3 years actually, we have been seeing each other across screens only, and it's good to see people in person. Ever since we had the return to office possible, I have been coming to work every day. I think there's something to human relations that is different when in person than across the screen. And it's really great to see civil society participants come back to the building and join us. As you know, we were allowed back into the building before you were allowed, and it was our battle in-house to ensure that when conditions allowed, that we were able to host you. So welcome back, and welcome to all who are still following us virtually. We will continue to ensure that all the briefings and all of the activities that we do are, to the extent possible, in person, but when not, are also available virtually, because what we have learned and the lessons that we have learned over the 3 years of the pandemic, which is still with us, is that virtual convening allows us to have, as a platform, participation from across the world. And we have seen rising interest in the work of our organization from parts of the world where they didn't necessarily have the ability to be with us, and they can't come to New York. So we really want to continue the dual convening, in person and virtual. 2022 was a year that, when we look back at it, and there are a number of really dark periods and negative developments that we cannot ignore, and one can actually spend hours talking about, from the war, Russian invasion in Ukraine, the resulting humanitarian cost in Ukraine and neighboring countries, but also the greater impact globally on the energy and food supplies and rising costs, other conflicts in other parts of the world, the impact of climate change, and we have seen it in the form of massive flooding in Pakistan that submerged almost 1/3 of the country. We see it in California last couple of weeks. The drought in the Horn of Africa, and the millions of people who are now food insecure across the world. So that's one part that I can say we can spend years, hours talking about. But I want to focus maybe on the different and the other side that gives us maybe incentive to continue working and to be hopeful about the change. Our Common Agenda report that was launched by the Secretary General identified a way forward, as requested by member states, following the UN 75 report and agenda, to really take us in a place where we are in a better position to achieve the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, in a better position to talk about the future and how can we really leverage the power of convening, multilateralism, to deal with the challenges that we are facing. So one of the first things that already happened is that for the transformative, our common agenda identified 3 summits that are supposed to take place. The Transformative Education Summit already took place, and today we are referring to it on the International Day of Education, 24th of January. And that's the other session that Kathryn mentioned that is taking place already in the building. The second summit is the Sustainable Development Goals Summit, which will take place this year. And this is almost the halfway between the date that the SDGs were adopted in 2015 and the goal date of 2030. So it's a moment of reflection. And we know from the SDG annual report that is produced by the Department of Economic and Social Affairs that we are not on track. We were not on track in 2019 before the pandemic, and we are further off track because of the pandemic and because of the impact of conflict, climate change, and other challenges the world is facing. So it's a moment of reflection, but also it's a moment of like, okay, where can we really amp up the effort and rely more on collaboration, technology to help get us back on track. And in next year, in 2024, there is going to be the Summit of the Future. And that is something that is also something that really we hope to engage in both summits, the civil society, and how can we ensure that the contributions across the world are shared with member states. There is, of course, an intergovernmental process. The co-facilitators of the summit have been identified by the President of General Assembly, and they have already started working. And to the extent possible, we will, of course, work to ensure that the views and input from civil society is, finds its way to those deliberations. There's also a climate summit that the Secretary General is hosting this year. And the reason for that is that the more we look at the reports of the UNFCCC and just reading the news about different impacts of the climate, and every year we get the report, this year or the last year has been the hottest year on record, and the last 20 years have been the hottest 20 years in record, and so on and so forth. We really have to push the envelope on climate. And if you have followed Secretary General Antonio Guterres' statements, he has been very, very forceful and clear in what needs to be done. We know what needs to be done. We need to give up our addiction to fossil fuels. We need to invest in clean and renewable energy. And he has not hesitated to call out fossil fuel companies, to call out also companies that enable fossil fuel companies to change and push back against public opinion and legislation, the PR companies, some of the advertising industries, and others. And I think civil society has a role to play in also pushing on these issues as well. As every year for the last few years, we have been also identifying our communication priorities as a department, and that we implement following our communication strategy. So for this year, our communication priorities for 2023 start with mobilizing for climate action. And that is really one of the key priorities for us that we hope to bring you along and other partners of the department. The second priority is, of course, ending the war in Ukraine. And that is not something that we can wave a wand and it happens, but it needs the work, the concerted effort of the Security Council, all of the parties engaged. But in the meantime, until the war ends, how do we ensure that the humanitarian needs, that the impact of the war, that the Black Sea Grain Initiative succeeds? All of that is something that we continue to work for. And fighting inequality is the third top priority for us, because we have seen COVID has exacerbated inequalities, and it was usually the group of people, and that's the majority of people, who are at the lower end of the inequality equation, suffer most. They suffer most from climate change, they suffer most from the impact of rising prices of food and energy, and they suffer most from climate change. So that's another priority for us. And the three other priorities, I think they will continue to be a priority for the department and for the United Nations until 2030 and beyond. Of course, one of them is sustainable development, which is promoting and advocating for the implementation of the SDGs, peace and security, and human rights. And on the last two, I think this year is going to be a critical year, an important year. This is the year that we will observe the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So 75 years of UDHR. And it is also the 75th anniversary of the first peace observer mission, UNSO, United Nations Truth Supervision Mission, that was mandated in 1948 in Palestine, historic Palestine, after the war in 1948 and the creation of Israel. And that is 75 years this year. So these two important milestones will be an opportunity to reflect on human rights and peace and security and the work that the UN does with member states, but also with our other partners. So these are some of the things that I wanted to share with you. I know that we also want to hear more from civil society participants, so I will not take more time in going over the details of how we're going to do that, but we cannot do that without working with you and without your help and participation and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Maher.
A little bit.
Okay, good. All right
I
then.
want to hear them.
Good. Well, then I will turn it over to Rinor. Rinor Jani is a member of the Civil Society Unit's Youth Steering Committee, and you are here to brief us on the work of that team. Thank you.
So hello everyone. It's really wonderful to join my fellow distinguished panelists and everyone joining us here in the room today. My name is Rinor Jani and I am a program coordinator for Pathways to Peace for Nuclear Disarmament Advocacy and Research. And I'm also a committee member of the UNDGC Civil Society Steering Committee. I'd like to add to the panel discussion today by speaking a little bit about the work of the committee, our priorities, and upcoming initiatives, as well as some opportunities for young professionals to get involved. Our committee consists of young civil society representatives between 18 to 32 years old that are working in organizations that are formally accredited with the Department of Global Communications. Our members advise and work with DGC on youth engagement for outreach and advocacy on global issues that are discussed at the UN and that the UN prioritizes. Following the 62nd DPI/NGO conference, the Youth Steering Committee was established in 2009. The inspiration that led to creating the committee was the idea that youth and young professionals needed a platform where they can share innovative ideas and best practices that address the most pressing issues and that are, prioritized again by the UN. The committee also aligns with the overall work of the Office of the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth and the more recent passage of the landmark UN General Assembly Resolution 76306 that establishes the United Nations Youth Office. We are looking forward to welcoming a new cohort of members that will be contributing their expertise to the committee operations. And we are pleased to share that we will soon publish a youth engagement report that showcases all of our members throughout the years, our perspectives on why youth engagement is necessary for addressing global issues and milestones that have been achieved. Throughout my experience of serving on the committee, I have often heard that young people express that they want to work more with the UN. And I have found that joining the committee and working to bridge the divide between young people and the UN has been a great entry point. Working alongside staff members from the department has truly been a great learning experience that has helped me expand my impact of the work that I do. I am grateful that I've had the opportunity to also advise UNDGC and the committee on issues that young people are concerned about, such as nuclear disarmament. Besides sharing my own knowledge with the department, we also took action together by organizing a civil society briefing last year during the Commission on the Status of Women on Nuclear Disarmament and the important role of women in peace building. It was a great opportunity that allowed various stakeholders in the field to come together and share important perspectives on how we can achieve a world free of nuclear weapons. Many other members of the committee have also been able to bring forward their knowledge and experience on various issues and actually engage the committee to take action. I really encourage young professionals working within their NGOs to visit the UNDGC Civil Society Youth Representative Steering Committee website and to learn more and consider this as an opportunity to contribute their expertise and work with the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinor. It's now my pleasure to introduce a colleague who needs no introduction. Hawa has promised to bring the fun, so it is my pleasure to introduce Hawa Diallo, Public Information Officer in the Civil Society Unit.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Good. How's it going? Good. Awesome. Happy New Year. Happy Lunar New Year. Thank you so much for being here with us. There's so many exciting things happening at the headquarters, and you chose to really spend your valuable time with the Department of Global Communications. We're truly grateful. And thank you to all the speakers, distinguished speakers, my boss who's next to me here, Kathryn, and Patrick, Rinor. And today's briefing for me is really special because we are really hearing from a lot of NGOs that we have not heard from before. In planning this briefing, we tried to look at the recent cohorts of NGOs that are associated with the department. So I hope, that we'll hear some very interesting aspects and perspectives as we continue today, because we'll be hearing from different colleagues from around the world. Now, Kathryn said, I'm here for the fun, so let's see what's going to happen. I have the really easy part. One is sitting here and looking pretty, and the fun part, which is playing this game with you. That's what I think. You can tell me between sitting pretty here and playing this game, which one is fun and which one is easy. So now I think that Crystal must have put up a link on the screen. This is to test your UN knowledge. I know you know all this stuff, but just in case you didn't have enough coffee this morning, we want to be sure you're alert. So you can either play this test your knowledge with me here in the room, where maybe one person can answer the question, or you can log on online, which is really fun, on joinmyquiz.com / I think it's that way, P-R-O, put in the code, and then put in your name. Because in the screen, we're going to see just how good everybody is in this game. So I don't know if it's like a Jeopardy. I'll give you a couple of minutes to sign in. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your laptop. It's really cool. It's fun. I want to thank one of the members of the steering committee, the Youth Representative Steering Committee, Safin Matthews, from 1M1B Foundation located in India. He's the one who put us into this game just to energize us every time we were meeting to test our UN or, development knowledge. So let me know when you're ready. I'm hearing some things happening there. Crystal, give me a go-ahead and I'll give the first answer. Now, Maher and Kathryn and Rinor are giving you all the hard stuff, so this is easy peasy. Everybody should get 100%. Everybody logged in? I was logged in, but I'm not going to cheat. I'm just going to have my name there. I try not to answer any of the questions.
Once everyone's logged in, then I'll press start to start the game.
So give me a go-ahead, and I'll get started with the first question. And those who can log in, maybe one person can raise their hand in the room and see if they can answer that question. So I'll count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. whether we're logged in or not. I see some people on. Crystal, am I okay?
Yeah, we have about 10 people.
Question number 1 for no prize at all. When did the United Nations officially come, oh my God, you guys are fast, come to existence? So you have a couple of minutes. Crystal, you give me a go-ahead when I can go. So is somebody here in the room want to help us out? When did the UN come into existence? Not when they signed the charter.
Everybody's answering.
Everybody's answering? Okay. We can see online, but maybe one person in the room can help us out also. Any takers? That's an easy one. In the back, right there.
1946.
Are we still answering? Do you want to help us out with the answer for one? Go ahead.
1946.
Are we correct? 1946. Going once, twice, third time. Are we right? I think I need some help here. Yes, up front, press your button.
1945.
1945, there we go. Nice try. So let's go to question number 2. Are we ready? Which organization was the predecessor to the United Nations? Who came first? Who did it before the United Nations? Are we ready? Up front, I have somebody here in the front with an answer. Are we okay, Crystal? The League of Nations, is he correct? Yes. Yes, excellent. Can I move to question number 3? Which is the body of the United Nations where you find all the members, all the member states? Christina?
General Assembly.
Is General Assembly right? What do we say? Round of applause if it is. Crystal, can I move on to question number 4? It's getting tough now. Each year, blank tons of food is lost or wasted. Each year, blank tons of food is lost or wasted. I can give you some hints. I don't know if you can see it there. 500 million, 900 million, 1.3 billion, and 2 billion. Come on, all my climate action people. One of the priorities we said is mobilizing climate action. Let's do it. If anybody has the power, it's civil society. Any takers? I heard 1.3 billion. What do you guys think? Yes, that's the correct answer. Awesome. Who was that? Let's see your face. Don't be so quiet. It's Felipe. That's not fair. Question number 5. This should be easy. Come on. Who are the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council? 5 members of the UN Security Council. Any takers? For 3 out of 5?
UK,
Okay, in the back there. There we go.
the UK,
UK.
the United States,
United States.
Russia, China, and France.
Was that 5? There we go. Awesome. Okay, you guys are stumping on the climate ones. Here's another one. Crystal, for question number 7. Oh no, you're ahead of me. Question number 7 is which SDG does that image, the green one, represent? Is it life on land, earth protection, safe environment, or climate action? Anybody from this side? Somebody who hasn't answered, all the way in the back, in the pink sweater. Climate action, is she right? Question number 8. How many official languages do we have at the UN? 6. You guys are too good. Here's another one that might stomp you. Less than blank percentage of the world's water is fresh, drinkable water. Is it 10%, 3%, 5%, or 15%? There we go. There's a gentleman up front. 3%. Are you sure you don't have my answer sheet? Okay, you're right. Okay. Then we have now, what is the global development framework that came before the SDGs? And what does that stand for? Was everybody under 18 that said that? Or over 18? You're right. Okay. I think we have oh my God, the last question. Which wing of the United Nations does that logo belong to? Is it UNESCO? UNEP? Oh God, you guys are too good. That's it, WHO. Give you guys yourself a round of applause. The grand prize is everybody gets free entry to the next DGC Civil Society briefing. See you there. Thank you so much for testing your knowledge with us, and I'll pass the floor back over to Kathryn.
Thank you, Hawa. That was really fun. So as we reimagine, inspire, act into our panel discussion, I'm going to hand the floor first to Patrick Sciarratte, President of the Global NGO Executive Committee, to hear the latest of upcoming plans of GNEC. Patrick.
Well, how do you follow that? Thank you, Kathryn. First of all, allow me to thank our partners and hosts today, the amazing Outreach Division, the United Nations Department of Global Communications, Civil Society Unit, and especially Mr. Maher Nasser, who has led this vital link for civil society to communicate with the UN's Department of Communications itself. Within the unit, we thank Ms. Andy Gittow, our talented moderator, Kathryn, Hawa, Judith, Rinor, and the sometimes unseen but seen here today team of miracle workers at the Civil Society Unit, including Felipe, Crystal, Swati, Victoria, and everyone. We thank you all for helping to make this event happen. We really do appreciate each of you having our concerns working on your behalf, and it's an honor and a privilege for me to represent the organization that for decades has been a focal point for cooperation and collaboration. The relationship between UNDGC and our GNEC, which is a representative group of NGOs, has been a useful and rewarding collaboration over decades. Rarely has there been opportunities to mark moments connecting a new initiative so clearly with a current direction. Reimagine, inspire, act. These three words set the tone perfectly for our new year. For most of our existence, our NGO was called NGO DPI. We should have made that one of the questions. That NGO prided itself primarily on being the focal point for major conferences produced by the United Nations Civil Society Unit. Well, COVID changed all of that, and quite honestly, so did the internet. With disruptions everywhere and seemingly simultaneously felt, we saw evolution in our future. Over these 2+ sad years of isolation, the new GNEC began to reimagine itself and prepare new services. Until we decide to meet again in large numbers, live and in person, GNEC's reimagination inspired a new series of service activities, and I'll take a moment to outline them now, especially in the context of reimagining and inspiring us all. As a backdrop, most of you know the alpha listing of GNECs for the associated NGOs. Well, like magicians, the big data coders among our interns are bringing this to life. We are remaking this list into a proprietary one for the NGOs who may opt in or opt out, that not only identifies the NGO site for contact, but pairs similar NGOs for reference or future cooperation. And once complete, it will also include funders, donors, and sponsors who support SDG-related activities, and those will be paired with the NGO clusters, cross-referenced in this new, free, proprietary listing service. Please join our January 30th briefing online to learn more about this. We're excited to note that GNEC.NGO, our revamped new website, will soon include Phase 2 of our Innovation Academy. The Innovation Academy was a collaboration with the DGC NGO. 2 hackathons on that site brought us the interactive listings work I just mentioned, and a new app aimed at NGOs working with refugee movements in Ukraine and elsewhere called UREST. Currently, the innovation site itself is closing down, and GNEC has remade it as a page on its own site. In February, that new page will house over 4,000 new courses as a free service to all our NGOs and their constituencies. The Learning Management Service, the LMS, is called Allison. It has been accessed by over 25 million students of all ages around the world. 5 million have graduated. Allison provides certificates and diplomas after cost study at modest prices. But all the courses are accredited, and enrollment is always free to our groups and their constituents. We are setting up interviews right now for our 2nd season of On the Ground, the podcast series. Initially, it was an interview session hosted by our Vice President, Nadine Clopton. It is now a full podcast show hosted by California radio personality Adrienne Berg. We've recently sent out a survey seeking guests for upcoming episodes. Keep an eye out for that. We already have 20 responses, which means we will need to do bi-monthly episodes throughout 2023. The first 2 episodes of the expanded series are already in the can. They focus on a major NGO, a longtime GNEC partner NGO, and a new app emerging from an academic NGO, all 3 associated with UNDGC. Previous episodes are still available on our site. Our events committee, chaired by my colleagues Dr. Connie Sensor and Ms. Idiola Pacholare, remains solidly committed to our regular, free, virtual briefing sessions, along with additional reimagined hybrid ones like these as COVID wanes. But beyond all these new opportunities, we also realize that to reimagine and reactivate, some of us need basic assistance, perhaps to restart. GNEC has loaned out its Zoom login, placed promotion on its 5,000 subscriber NGO reporter platform, and even created a fiscal agency program that has assisted NGOs in need of administrative or financial service. To inspire you further, we request that all UNDGC-associated NGOs visit our site, gnec.ngo. Join our e-blast list and, of course, that of the UNDGC Civil Society Unit. In closing, please vote, please vote for our members, the members of the GNEC leadership on the board of directors this spring. That mandate, when you vote for us, helps us in conversations with the media, funders, and others. Your vote counts even though it may be for different reasons than in the past. In fact, recognizing that we are and always have been a committee of NGOs, why not reimagine your own NGO relationship with GNEC by joining a subcommittee? Anyone can. Nominating someone, even yourself, for the board of directors elections. Run for our leadership positions, then, win or lose, join our teams and help enhance our collective voice so UNDGC may learn more about our collective efforts during the decade of action to support the fulfillment of the SDGs. Well, here's hoping I've inspired you to reimagine your role in our UN-focused NGO community, and especially as part of the new GNEC.NGO going forward. And I turn the floor back to our esteemed moderator. Ms. Good?
Thank you, Mr. Sciarratte, and congratulations.
Thank you.
It is inspiring to hear about all of the ways that GNEC has moved into the 21st century and 2023, so we look forward to hearing more. One of my favorite things that has come from the pandemic is the inclusion of voices away from headquarters in all of our meetings. So we will turn now to a video submission from one of our civil society organizations. I'm pleased to introduce Piyush Gupta, Secretary at National Association of Palliative Care for AYUSH and Integrative Medicine.
Greetings from India. I'm Dr. Piyush Gupta, Secretary of National Association of Palliative Care for AYUSH and Integrative Medicine and Secretary of Cancer Aid Society, India. Well, National Association of Palliative Care for AYUSH and Integrative Medicine is an ISO 9001-2015 organization. And keeping up with the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, we are working on goal number 3, that is good health and well-being. Good health aims to keep the global citizens healthy and disease-free, whereas the well-being points towards palliative care, that is improving the quality of life. Well, I got a chance to represent the country in several UN meetings and at World Health Organization, that is high-level meeting on non-communicable diseases in 2011 at UN and the subsequent review meeting in 2014. The Global Coordination Mechanism on the Non-Communicable Diseases held a meeting at WHO headquarters Geneva in April 2015, where I participated, and subsequently I participated in their November 2015 meeting. We have a national network of state chapters, city chapters. 37 chapters are across India, and 1 international chapter is in Dubai. So civil society has to reimagine, inspire, and act fast. Our suggestions to the UN Department of Global Communications for strengthening civil society engagement and support upcoming UN processes, summits, and its preparatory meeting are UNDGC, by interfacing between the governments and the community through the civil society, can help in enforcing the UN resolutions through the community engagement and making action plans for its dissemination to awareness and advocacy by the civil society within all the stakeholders. In order to add teeth and be focused, we need to make working groups in accordance with the objectives or goals of the civil societies, classified in accordance with the SDGs, so as to help in achieving the targets by 2030. These working groups shall evolve action plan, which shall empower the civil societies for participating in the UN summits and meetings, along with empowering the fellows in need by transfer of knowledge. 2 long years of COVID pandemic has turned the world topsy-turvy. National Association of Palliative Care for AYUSH and Integrative Medicine was incorporated in May 2020 for handling the emergency due to lack of trained caregivers. We demonstrated fast action in India, the country having 1/6 of human population. ISO 9001 was obtained so as to maintain the quality standards, while 2020 COVID pandemic unleashed terror across the globe. It increased the demand for palliative care professionals due to extended lockdowns, which caused mental stress. Palliative care training got stalled when it was needed the most, being offline. The shortage of caregivers was overtook by NAPCAM by launching unique upgradable distance learning, train-the-trainer courses, and enrolling over 270 students in 3-month certificate, 6 months fellowship, and 1-year master course in palliative care. We perceived the threats early and initiated quick action. National networking was achieved through 166 members in 38 chapters across India and globe. Sharing, empathy, and compassion is what we look forward to. In spite of the fact that we all have it in plenty, however, it is always used in a miserly manner, although it does not cost. Little do we realize that the more we spend it, the more shall it grow to enlighten our lives with happiness and self-satisfaction. Palliative care is just not a science, but why not? Where the basic qualification needed for it is compassion and empathy. People who are deprived from the bliss of sharing are the ones who are dissatisfied in spite of achieving great heights in professional or financial domain. As little do they think about the purpose of life. We acknowledge the importance of indigenous and traditional therapies like AYUSH and other modalities of healing like aromatherapy, music therapy, drama therapy, ritualistic methods of healing, etc. in palliation. As the concept being holistic, reflect back on those tender moments of bliss and healing when you were ill, lying in the lap of your mother as she gently tousled your hair with her fingers, or her blissful kiss after every injury, which gave a miraculous healing touch. Exactly, that was the birth of palliative care. We invite you all to join hands and let us together bring about a sense of meaning and purpose to our existence by understanding the fact that by helping others, we heal ourselves and our happiness multiplies when we bring smiles on the faces of others. Self-satisfaction is possible through joy of sharing as grief decreases and happiness increases on sharing with others. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush, for sending the video and for sharing the diversity of work that your organization is doing. Now I would like to introduce Yuko Kudo, Artist Ambassador from United Voices for Peace, to share her NGO's plan to incorporate and pursue the theme Reimagine, Inspire, Act throughout 2023. Yuko.
Thank you so much for the introduction. On behalf of our founder and chair, Ms. Veronica Sabag, and all the United Voices for Peace team, I want to thank the UN Department of Global Communication for this invitation and opportunity. Because of her professional experience of more than 20 years in the field of international diplomacy, Ms. Sabag is naturally the person within the organization that engage regularly with the relations with UN, and she conveys her deepest regret not to be able to attend this timely meeting. Having said so, and in line with the United Voices for Peace mission and vision, one of a creative diplomacy working at the intersection between diplomacy and cultural world. United Voices for Peace is very proud to be represented in this occasion, as for many of its projects and programs, by an underrepresented artist whose voice United Voices for Peace aim to amplify. My name is Yuko Kudo. I am an Asian woman and a multidisciplinary artist, co-creator of award-winning documentary film Untapped Storytellers, and director of documentary film Dear Asian Girls to amplify the voices of artists. I am so honored to be here today with you all as a United Voice for Peace Artist Ambassador in New York City. I am very much conscious of the need to become aware and active in relation to the pressing global challenges our world and society are facing. I'm proud to add my voice to this agenda of reimagine, inspire, and act creatively throughout 2023, aligning with the UN priorities and goals. To this respect, we are thrilled to inform you of the initiative that we are currently working on. We are very excited to announce that United Voices for Peace has teamed up with the United Nations Symphony Orchestra to present a side event to the Conference on the Status of Women to celebrate the International Women's Day 2023. This event will consist on a unique and a one-of-a-kind concert by the UN Orchestra, performing a full program featuring pieces of contemporary women classical composers from all around the world with whom we're collaborating. These women artists are from Puerto Rico, South Africa, China, Ukraine, Iran, Argentina, to name a few. In line with its mission and previous activities, United Voice for Peace will provide a concrete example on how music can foster diplomacy towards the elimination of discrimination, violence against women and girls, advancing the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations, focusing on gender, eliminating inequality, peace, and partnership, notably Goals 5, 10, 16, and 17. In the same spirit, United Voice for Peace special program simultaneously will provide inclusive space for diverse women artists from around the world as an opportunity for diplomatic and cultural world to meet, fostering an alternative model for creative international diplomacy, building bridges between different countries, cultures, generations, genres, and stakeholders. We have shared with DGC project outline of this event, which will take place on Wednesday, the 8th of March in the BMCC Tribeca Performing Arts Center, and hope to count with a maximum presence and support by the various UN departments, organizations, national missions to the UN, and other sponsors and supporters. We will soon circulate this invitation. I understand that we will have the opportunity to further elaborate on the occasion on the next briefing in early March on how to improve the world through music and the arts, to which United Voice for Peace will actively contribute. United Voices for Peace is also actively involved in ongoing works of the Coalition for the UN We Need, and more specifically, its subgroup on governance, to which we will be happy to add our creativity in preparation for the Summit of the Future in September. To conclude, let me restate that we look forward to be working together with the UN DGC on its various outreach activities with other relevant members of the UN family to the extent possible and needed on your 2023 agenda to advance the UN priorities and sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuko. And I think everyone marked their calendars for the 8th of March, so we'll be looking for more information on the event. Thank you. Our next speaker is Lucia Vilarino Fiore, the Executive Director of Organizacion de Bomberos Americanos from Uruguay, and she has shared with us a video message.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Lucia Vilarino Fiore, and I'm the Executive Director of Organizacion of American Firefighters, or Organizacion de Bomberos Americanos, a newly associated NGO with the UN Department of Global Communications. Organizacion de Bomberos Americanos is an international cooperation institution that unites emergency services from Latin America and the Caribbean. We represent 1.5 million humanitarians from 13 countries. Our mission is to build more resilient communities and facilitate an effective prevention, preparation, and response when a disaster strikes. We've been invited by the wonderful team of the UN Department of Global Communications to share some comments on what does the Our Common Agenda report mean to civil society in our region. As you all may know, in terms of income, Latin America and the Caribbean is one of the most unequal regions in the world. The richest tenth of the population captures 22 times more of the national income than the bottom tenth. Furthermore, Latin America is projected to be one of the regions of the world where the impacts of climate change, such as heat waves, declining crop yields, forest fires, and many more, will be most intense. The effect of these extreme events on poverty, income, health, and education poses an enormous challenge to the well-being of our communities. The Our Common Agenda report calls us to be prepared, and it provides also a recipe on doing so, which is global solidarity. We have to make sure we create a brand new social contract as international community. Each and every sector needs to own and contribute to these recommendations. We need to start rebuilding trust today. We have to be accountable and to promote trustworthy information based in science to contribute with an effective process of policymaking. We need a strong and decisive public policy with people in the center to address the pressing global issues of our time. Today, we have the choice to be part of the making of a better future. Let's rise to the occasion together. Thank you, and I wish everyone a very productive session.
Thank you to Lucia for sharing the video with us. We have another video submission, and this one, I have to confess, is of special meaning to all of us who work in the civil society unit. I'm pleased to introduce Marissa Hastings, who has been working with us as an intern.
Hello, I'm Marissa, an intern in the Civil Society Unit within the Department of Global Communications. So, how can young people support the UN Youth Office on how to reach and involve untapped youth voices from the various regions? I think that the greatest resources we have at our disposal are ourselves and our experiences. In order to involve untapped youth voices, we need to connect on the community and individual levels. This is where thinking of ourselves as critical resources is key. We know our communities. We know how to reach them, what their struggles may be, what methods of information dissemination they are more likely to respond to, and what might alienate them. We have insight into why some youth individuals within our communities still do not get to have their voices heard. We, young people, have the opportunity to use this invaluable information we have accumulated just by living and learning within the community to uplift voices that have not been heard. This micro approach could be formulated as an ambassador program where individuals across the globe provide the Youth Office with information about their communities and pull resources the UN Youth Office creates to create messaging tailored for local youth. There will be obstacles to this method, such as including communities that currently have no one with a connection to the UN. However, one way to overcome that would be to work through school systems to identify an ambassador. Taking this youth-centered, micro approach, rather than pursuing a more overarching technique, not only ensures more targeted and thus more efficient and successful messaging, but also encourages youth ownership within the community and within the UN Youth Office itself. The UN has a strong youth network already. Forming a network of young people from as many communities as possible across the world to gather invaluable information about community structures is one way I believe we can reach and involve untapped youth voices globally. Thank you.
Thank you to Marissa and to our other interns, Eva and Elise, who constantly remind us how much we have to learn. Our final speaker today is Vanessa Abdulaziz from Africa Youth Movement, which occupies the vice presidency of the Global NGO Executive Committee. In her video, Vanessa will discuss the youth involvement in UN activities of the DGC youth and the advocacy campaigns, especially at the grassroots. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa Abdulaziz Musa and I am a representative of the African Youth Movement. One thing is certain, these days you see a lot of African youth who are trailblazers in different aspects abroad. Most are from little known communities, most with their talents are not recognized back home. There lies the problem. To achieve this goal, the DGC must create a link and interface between the government and the youth at all levels. The UN country offices should be willing to meet and hear us. Then they can organize competitions and events on key UN activities with emphasis on rural NGOs. Before you know it, the message will spread and the ideas of rural people will start trickling in. That's the way to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you to all of our speakers here and those who submitted video statements. It's always inspiring to know what is actually happening the work that NGOs are doing, and it inspires us to go back into conversations and meetings and advocate for larger and stronger presence of civil society voices in all of the activities at the UN. So now, because we have managed to find ourselves back on time, thank you to everybody, I want to open the floor. I have a handful of questions, and we will ask them to our panel, who has agreed to give their responses. But I think I want to start with a question on the topic of Reimagine, Inspire, Act, and put it out to you. How does your NGO foresee incorporating this tagline, if you will, Re-Inspire, Imagine, Act, to fulfill your transformative mission in 2023? Hands up. I'm going to go to Ruby first and then to the gentleman.
I'm the co-chair for the NASW Tech Council. So we're the only tech council for the United States for social workers. We actually reached out to American Public Health and other associations with the helping profession. So what we're doing is bridging the gap between the helping profession and aligning ourselves with academics, and use the grant funding process of Tier 1 research universities to help build out a hackathon, to build out innovation. Instead of using VC money to take away the credit and intellectual properties of the folks that are actually working on the ground, using the grant process so when no one loses equity and the grants move forward.
Thank you.
Do you guys hear me? Okay, great. When we talk about Inspire, Reimagine, and Act, I think of some of the most talented and creative African youths in Africa who lack those opportunities to participate in many of their sustainable development goals, plans, and the acceleration process. When I was in Tigray, I remember those kids who are very creative, creating electric out of just a dead battery and all these things I was seeing. I was just thinking, how can we incorporate this into the sustainable development goal and empower these young people? So when I founded the Youth for Sustainable Development Goals 2030 as an organization I founded, basically it's to let young people know that they can use the sustainable development goal to achieve those challenges that they're facing in their country and in their region. And that's through participation, by mobilizing young people, and by putting out education materials that could help empower these young people, inspire them, and also, above everything else, as we said, act. Action comes when children and youth have the ability to, to enforce actions, because in many countries in Africa, it's kind of difficult for young people to enforce any change because, there's corruption, there's discrimination, and all these issues that we face. So that's why my organization is involving in empowering young people and helping them understand that the SDG is a real thing and that we can make a reality by making our own governments accountable to their actions, and through inspiration of the work that we do as young people who live in the diaspora. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't think either of you introduced yourselves fully at the start, if I could ask you.
Yeah, my name is Sciarratte Harifo. I'm a former refugee from Ethiopia.
Welcome.
National Association of Social Work Tech Council.
Thank you both. And both of you had the opportunity to speak and to meet our larger community at the town hall with the President of the 77th General Assembly. So thank you for being back here and for sharing your work. I am particularly inspired on International Day of Education to have a chance to reflect on the importance of youth in providing solutions to the problems that they see in organizing for themselves, and for engaging academic institutions and the grant funds that are available there to work with the broader community and to solve those problems. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to ask the panel if they could also take a moment to reflect on how they're working in 2023 on Reimagine, Inspire, and Act. And I'll start with Patrick, because he's ready.
Well, actually, I won't need to go into it again. That was what my entire presentation was about. But in terms of this, I thought I would mention that on January 30th, which is the Partnerships Exchange Day, we're holding our own virtual workshop, and I'd like you all to be part of it. It's going to focus on that listings program, but it's much, much bigger than that. In terms of your concern, we are interested in not only identifying all of the UNDGC associated NGOs working with youth, but clustering them together and then also providing them with access to funding sources so that we can say, if you and you work together, this one over here might be interested in funding to see if we can make sort of 1 + 1 = 3. And again, I think that we'll probably be doing other hackathons. We're doing a hackathon in March that's going to look at the listings and also UREST, our app that right now is focused on Ukraine, but it'll also roll out in New York in Spanish because of the governors from the South who are sending migrants up north here. And we hope to make a side presentation at the data conference, the UN data conference in Hangzhou in April. So please, that was my point. If you would like to be part of the January online and do not have your NGO reporter handy, which we send out to 5,000 of you, please send me an email or send it to our organization. Send it to info@gnec.ngo, and it's .ngo, not .org. info@gnec.ngo, and we'll send you that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Rinor?
So I just wanted to actually address the question in regards to the inclusion of young people in achieving the SDGs and addressing the most pressing global issues. Our work on the committee, I just want to say transparently that there's actually very few members of the committee that are based here in New York. We have members from the entire world who are working around the clock in all different time zones on various projects. Some of you are in the room and you know very well we are, we're not all based in New York. So I always say that instead of always waiting for the UN to show up on your doorstep, it's important for you to kind of make that step and kind of meet the UN halfway, because the UN is limited in always addressing every single issue or in, providing those platforms for youth to be able to be part of them. But I would say that with the most recent passage of the General Assembly resolution establishing the UN Youth Office, I think that that has been something that others like Hawa and many others who have been championing the inclusion of youth have been working many years for that. And of course, another challenge is that sometimes even getting to the UN or coming here in New York is a challenge because of the visa process and all that is behind that. So again, I would recommend looking into joining the committee if you haven't already looked into that, or recommending that to other young professionals and NGOs. Because again, we're an international team in all different time zones from all over the world working on the SDGs and other UN initiatives.
Thank you, Rinor, and for the reminder that the UN can reimagine itself, and we hope that the adoption of the resolution to create the youth office will be the first of many steps in that direction. Yuko.
Thank you. In addition to the initiative that we've shared earlier, there are many support that United Voices for Peace can always looking and also willing to collaborate. And in terms of logistics, I will leave that to our founder, Ms. Sabag. However, as an artist, it's always creative. Reimagine is our water and our air and live and breathe. So that is where we thrive, and we look forward to collaborating and serving the community to the better.
Thank you. I think today has highlighted all of the positive opportunities for cooperation across, and in particular with GNEC. I have another 2 questions that I want to combine and ask you to think about. Earlier in the session, Maher spoke about the Secretary General's report, Our Common Agenda, and the hopes for greater civil society engagement going forward. And he listed some of the events that are upcoming. The Secretary General will be organizing another climate summit. There is the Summit of the Future, which will have a preparatory meeting at the ministerial level in September of this year. There is the SDG Summit upcoming, organized by the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and a number of other events and high-level meetings that will be organized. So the question to all of you and to our panel is, how do you see DGC helping you to promote civil society voices at those sessions or on that report, and how can we support you in your participation there? In the back.
Thanks. This is Adam Carroll with Justice for All, an NGO that works on human rights issues, especially confronting the persecution of minority populations. It's great that these summits and conferences are coming up, and I think they themselves help with partnership building, with networking, of course, getting the word out. CSW is a great opportunity, for example, but there are so many parallel sessions that it's easy to get lost in the mix. For example, we have 2 panels coming up, and I know in previous years, whether we're doing them online or in person, there's a lot of competition because there's lots of great stuff going on. I don't know that DGC can necessarily help with that, but we do need more opportunities for continued networking, and that's why I'm really excited about the GNEC's work on NGO clusters. I think that's something really to look forward to and engage with. I also hope that the Resource Center will open up again its meeting rooms. That would be really great to have. Just to say that, we work in partnership with persecuted communities. We have staff members who are from those impacted communities, Uyghur, Rohingya, and so forth, Indian Muslims. We have a TV channel. We try to educate the communities that we serve about the potential, the challenges and the opportunities here in the United Nations and its communities. We want to bring in those voices from the camps, and because of technology, we talk to people living in the camps every day, and they have very clear pictures of what's needed, including education. So another shout out to the International Day of Education today. But refugee education is often really lacking and underfunded, or even host countries are hostile to the idea. So we have a lot of work to do on that. So I hope that, just bringing that up, that we all can work together to mutually support. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start here and then over here.
You have to press the button, push the button.
Underneath the mic.
Felipe is going to come help you.
Thank you. I used this before. That's what happens when you do our meetings online. Hi, I'm Comfort Asambe, and I represent the American Psychological Association. And we've been doing a lot of things that are related to some of the initiatives of the DGC. And one of our focus for a while now has been on climate change. We have also been very involved with sending information out and resources for children in Ukraine because of mental health issues, which we know a whole lot about. One of the things I think the DGC can be helpful with, which they have been in the past, is if your room is opened up, we can reserve rooms for our meetings, which we appreciate because trying to rent something around here is very expensive. We also do the Psychology Day at the UN event every year, and we are happy I was a co-host in 2022, and we were able to reach about 97 countries, and it's been very, very successful because of we could do online. We want to come back to the UN building, but we want to make it hybrid. We also need a way of publication. The GNEC, Patrick, probably you remember I called you a couple of times to get information out for Psychology Day at the UN and the reporter. And we will partner with any group that deals with all areas of psychology. We are not just mental health. Psychology is pretty broad. And we have been very involved with the DGC, with the Salt Lake City program. I was very heavily involved in the review of the abstracts, and we will be very happy to be involved again. Our topic this year is on psychological contributions to global peace, conflict resolution, and equity. So it's very much aligned with some of the initiatives of the DGC and the GNEC. So we'll partner with any group. Thank you.
Thank you. I hear the invitation in there. We have a number of hands, so I'll start with Ali, and then here, and then I'll come back to this side of the room. No, not Felipe. No ringers. Ali.
Thank you for providing me the opportunity. I have a suggestion and some observations from the last year. We have the Education Summit, we have COP27, and many other events that took place within the capacity of the UN, at the UN headquarters and elsewhere. So there's an element missing when we had the Education Summit, and my suggestion is that if we can fill that gap during the upcoming events, especially the summit of the future and the climate change summit, as you say, that the Secretary General going to do again, and then we again going to have the COP meeting in Dubai. So there is clearly a missing voice of young people, especially from the global south. We have noticed that there are very few young people from the global south are present at those summits in terms of participation, and also in terms of in the capacity of presenters or speakers or presenting their views, because I think they are the young people that are suffering, or they're facing a lot of challenges, and they are doing a lot with the civil society, with the Youth Steering Committee. We come across a lot of young people in Global South that they're doing great things, and I think those young people, they deserve to be at such summits. and the civil society unit, I think that we can ensure some sort of a special a quota or a procedure to have more number of young people, especially from the global south, attending these meetings. Either they're the COP meetings or the Future Summit or the COP meeting or any meeting that's taking place. It's really a suggestion that I think we should really focus on that, and their percentage and the population is higher than the rest of the world's population, especially if you see the ratio of the population of young people from the global north and the global south. The global south's young people's population is a lot, huge, and they're underrepresented, and if we can do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the young person the floor.
Hello, my name is Bianca Ravenga. I'm a youth delegate helper of my university, Felician University, and part of RACID, the Royal Academy of Science International Trust. It would be very helpful to know if GGC has any guidelines on how to engage NGOs in helping in post-war places like Ukraine with education and health. Our university NGO would really like to help in issues like this one, and we would like to know how can we help.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to go here and then here.
Thank you very much. Hi, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for this briefing. It always brings me joy to be in person with others, so I really appreciate this. My name is Liling Huntimana, and I work as a representative to the UN for the Baha'i International Community. We're really excited about the formation of the UN Youth Office, and in consultations with other young people who are trying to engage with the UN, one question that has come up often, and I think this is an area that perhaps the colleagues at the DGC could be of assistance, is to try to understand the youth ecosystem within the UN. I've been here for 1 year, so I'm still learning and struggling to understand the various agencies and departments and where the youth work is being done. But I think that's one question that a lot of young people who are trying to engage with the UN, just trying to understand the different focal points across the system and how to work with them. I was in a meeting yesterday. It was on NGOC SOCD, but what the chair did was really quite inspiring. She invited all the chairs of the different NGO committees to come to the briefing. It was a breakfast with bureau members of the Commission for Social Development. And all the other members who were there felt it was really refreshing to be with individuals who everybody's trying to work for Agenda 2030. So just to be in the same room, even though we're working, some people are working on finance, some people are working on the commission, but it was just nice to be in the same room and to consult together. And I wonder if a similar space can be created for stakeholders working with youth, perhaps having, maybe it's annually, a briefing with all the focal points within the UN system, just to be able to know who they are and what they're doing. It would just be very helpful. Because as everybody knows, it's a large system, it's hard to understand who's doing what and what happens, so I feel maybe DGC could assist with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your questions and your proposed solutions. It's good to have lots of different ideas, and I can hear Hawa over here nodding and planning changes to the calendar already. On participation, we do advocate regularly in all of the events, but I think that it's worth having a rethink about how we do that, where we do that, and when we do that to ensure participation. It's a conversation that happens across the UN at all levels, not just around youth or youth from the Global South, but population-wise, how are we representing different people in different processes. So thank you for that. Yes? That was the question. Wow.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Actually, I would like to briefly, may I invite you, your consideration for two things. The first point, I think she already addressed our concern in the informative level. Might it be possible, we really look forward and welcome more briefings in the future, because most of the time as NGOs, we really would like to be involved at the UN. Today we are aware SDG Summit, Future Summit, but many times we don't know where we are in terms of the preparation steps and how can we contribute in a concrete way. So if in future briefings we are more guided by the DGC, I think that will help us to be more involved. Well, this is an informative level. And second consideration is things all of the high-level events are multi-stakeholder. So can DGC help our involvement? For example, DGC will organize its own NGO session during those big meetings. So we'll provide us a platform to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Great points. And I'm going to ask my colleagues from the civil society unit if they have any quick responses, comments. I know that we all have a lot to think about, but there may be some more immediate solutions or questions, and then I'll come back to the panel to close. Thanks. Felipe.
Thank you. And thanks, everyone. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying what I'm gonna say because this is being recorded, but the UN is not known for working very well sometimes with youth because we work in silos. We've been working on patches, and Hawa knows this very well. I mean, the fact that youth have been able to be part of different processes with youth engagement throughout the UN system is because Hawa has been fighting directly for that. She's been like, she finds out about something, not through official channels, she gets the info, and says, okay, let me see how can we insert youth there, and how can we be their part, and how can we do, so youth engagement from DGC has been because we have pushed it, because Hawa has been leading this effort, not only through the steering committee, but through the youth program. And that is something that no one else was doing. And now everyone is trying to mimic, oh, well, let's see how we can include youth. I think that a good sign is that we have the youth office, the new UN youth office. I think it's a good sign, but hopefully that will centralize processes. My advice to you is, if you want to advocate for participation and inclusion, and you want DGC to mean something for you, there is a call in OCA, as Maher has mentioned. Our common agenda, item 130, is a call from the Secretary General to member states to revisit the resolutions that call for the engagement of civil society within the UN system. Unless there's a resolution that says that not only ECOSOC entities can participate, but also DGC associated entities can participate, and that has to come from you. You need to advocate for that. We cannot push that from within. It has to come from the outside. So we need you to help us help you. And we need you to help us help member states understand that participation cannot be restricted within one specific process. It has to be more inclusive. It has to be more broad, and it has to be welcoming of everyone. That happens, as I said, because OCA, that calls for this UN 2.0, is inviting for you to do that. There's one movement, the Coalition for the UN We Need, that is pushing for this with member states for the implementation of Agenda 2030. And OCA, items 121 and 122. The Global NGO Executive Committee is your best ally right now in DGC to be able to do this, because when you work in silos, nothing happens. When you synergize efforts is when things really come to be. So my invitation is really consider becoming part of the Global NGO Executive Committee. It has changed tremendously in the last years, and it's become extremely active, very visible. The work that they're doing is pretty impressive, and we are proud of partnering with them and working with them, collaborating with them. We cannot say partnership because there's no more, but anyways, the online jargon. But my invitation is find partners that are already doing that on the ground, be it the committees through Congo, be it through the Global NGO Executive Committee, which is what they are here for you and for us, and then find ways where you can push specifically so that member states can listen, that you have allies within member states that are really, really interested in pushing the agenda for civil society inclusion. Some others are not. Well, find the allies, and when you find the allies, find a way that you can really insert yourself and say, okay, we want this to happen, and keep pushing, keep insisting, because nothing happens unless, well, as they said before, don't wait to be invited to do something. Just go and do it, and then start acting. Coalition for the UN you need, the Global NGO Executive Committee, Congo for consultative status, but also Agenda 2030 included in your work, and OCA, our common agenda. Read the report. 121, 122 for civil society, 130 for member states, telling them, hey, we need to revisit this resolution thing because the SG envisions civil society participating more. And that is where it includes youth. And the youth engagement is key to be able to achieve our goals. That's it.
Thank you, Felipe. I think we're glad that this was recorded so you can go back and review all of that important information later. Hawa.
Yeah, thank you, Felipe. I think you're actually angling for me to get fired. Because as we're here, my WhatsApp youth intel was going off the hook here. I'm like, But thanks so much for all those points. I might ask you maybe if you can, because a couple of people did ask me about passes and how to, and you're the guru on that along with Victoria, so maybe you may say a few words. But I mean, simply for me, I'm just smiling and shaking my head and mumbling to Kathryn here with all the good points that have been brought up. I especially like Lily, you know what you were saying with the youth focal points. I don't know, Kathryn heads our non-governmental liaison service, NGLS, has been in the civil society unit in DGC for the last maybe 3 or 4 years. And one of the things that they have worked to do is to really get all the focal points of civil society, all the civil society focal points within the UN system, meeting and talking to each other and exchanging ideas regularly. And it's become even more relevant and important with our common agenda, and that continues. So this team here in the Civil Society Unit, DGC, is trailblazing and doing that work. It would be interesting, as you say, to do a similar for youth, because internally in the UN, amongst UN entities, we do have that gathering of focal points. And in some of those structures, we have youth global groups that are represented, but I'm interested in that idea you present of, maybe not DGC, maybe the UN Youth Office, or I don't know if people know the UN Youth Envoy is actually part of DGC, working together as a team to bring that to young people, knowing who's who and who's doing what and how you can interface with them. I like that idea, so I'm holding on to that. As Kathryn said, our draft agenda, just a calendar of advocacy events, it's almost ready. They will share with you, but I'm seeing, even things that we can incorporate. Now, it's a challenge for us because there's so many things that are going on with the SDG, with the Future Summit, our common agenda, and we have to, by mandate, cover these things, or the priority areas that Maher mentioned earlier. But we're always open to partnerships. We have some NGOs that reach out to us. It's impossible for us to reach out to people all the time, so please get in touch with us if you're interested. Once you see the calendar, we're planning already, but we're very open in having your voices on the panel, having your ideas as we plan. So please take a look at that. I hope that we'll get it on the website in the next week. And Kathryn, you had asked before about, what are we thinking about, reimagining, inspiring, and acting. And, you guys know from here to the resource center, 20 ideas are going to pop in my head. And you're going to have to calm me down. Okay, Hawa, no, we can't do that. Let's calm down. So what I want to do for myself and the team this year is, as we're having these ideas pop in our head, because I want to believe that we are the most creative team in the United Nations. Can I have a amen to that? I actually want us to listen, like we're doing now, to what you just said. How are you reimagining and inspiring and acting and, coming along with you with the ideas that you propose to us to see how we can make that, common and implement that within the United Nations. That's what I'm thinking about. So maybe instead of 20 ideas as I'm taking a shower, I'll cut it down to 10. Let's see what happens. Thank you so much. And maybe Felipe, something about passes? I got a couple of questions.
So super quickly, all grants passes issued by DGC are valid until the 31st of January of the following year. So grants passes are still valid. We have a process open. You can go to our website at un.org/civil society. If you click under biennial review, you'll see the instructions of grants passes for 2023.